this is Tracey Welson-Rossman. We're here again with Chariot Solutions 15 Minutes With. I think the last time I was in a different area, we're back in my home office. And just so we know, my hair was done today. That's why it looks so fabulous. Anyway, enough about me. We're here today with Stacey Mosley, who I've known from the Philly tech community for what seems like forever. She was, we originally met when she was working in city government, and she is now, and then she started her own startup. She's now presently working as director of research at Brandywine Realty. And what we are going to start off with is a discussion. Stacey is an data analytics expert. And when I found out that she had moved over to Brandywine, I was just curious as to how data and the commercial market actually comes together. So I think that's where we're going to start.
Yeah. So having started in city government, I was even focused on real estate from that angle way back when. And it has been really interesting to kind of ebb and flow through how real estate data, or even other data that doesn't exactly relate to real estate, can inform decisions about real estate. So at the government level, and then with my startup, working primarily on the residential side, and now kind of graduating into understanding how things are evolving on the commercial end. It is very much using data to get very granular about these very large economic concepts. So how a certain city might be performing, knowing that in these times especially, we have a really horrible economic situation happening, and using data to understand, okay, which industries are really suffering because of that, which jobs are really being slashed and taken away. That all relates to real estate in the fact that those jobs are not going to fill those buildings. Which companies are actually going to do well during these times, so that we can understand, okay, these particular industries need these kinds of office spaces. This is what we should be building. And that's of particular interest, I mean, of course, across all of the markets that Brandywine exists in, but in Philadelphia in particular, something that had started industry-wise before the pandemic, but is really starting to accelerate, is the life sciences. And life science space is a very different physical space than a traditional office building. And so using data to then see, okay, how many of those companies even exist here today? How many of them just raise money? How many of them are growing? How many of them exist in Boston that we could try to pull down and get them to set up a satellite in Philadelphia? All of that means taking data and seeing what the opportunity is like.
So besides the business side of data in commercial, you have tenants within buildings right now. And as we all know, I'm working from home. I believe you were in your office, your regular office, which is not the norm. So many companies are saying that they're not going back until, now some of them have announced through middle of next year.
Yeah.
How are you using data to help you figure out how to get companies and their employees to come back to the buildings?
Yeah. Well, so first of all, I think a really big deal for me is the fact that I can even be in our office. Brandywine itself has taken a whole bunch of really wonderful measures so that we have a lot of cleaning activity. We have people pretty much constantly cleaning, and all of the protocols of wearing a face mask around the office and whatnot, and restrictions on how many people can be in a conference room, et cetera. So I'm actually really privileged, feeling really safe here. And I think that's very achievable for a lot of other businesses as well, but there are still fears around that. And that's something that we have done a lot of outreach to our tenant community to understand what those fears are, and challenges. They might be fears, they might be just challenges that are hard to overcome. A lot of people are staying home because of schooling. If they have school-age children that they need to be monitoring for remote learning purposes, that's a big challenge. On the fear end, there's fears of using mass transit in some cases, and people feeling far more comfortable commuting to work with a vehicle. And that's something that we've really done an amazing job leveraging our relationships with our tenant community to get them to fill out surveys, to get them to fill out questionnaires to help us understand, okay, what is your intention in terms of coming back? When do you think you're going to come back, and how can we really assist you during those times? Everything from those challenges in particular, like knowing through data how many of them really are facing those kinds of remote learning situations as a big hurdle, which ones are more concerned about transit and therefore may need parking. And those are things that we have parking, like, let's make it work. We can help you overcome these. And it's a way for us to both understand what the data kind of not only the magnitude of companies' needs, but also better strategize around how to resolve on that scale. So that's been something that we've really done an amazing job at, and are really personalizing as well. It's not just about the data, it's very much then about the personal outreach to help them get back in the office safely.
Well, it's definitely something that we talk about at Chariot, which is technology is a tool. It's really, how are you using that tool to help solve a business issue? So that's what you're doing.
Yeah, and it's very much, that's like a very specific moment of the times for sure.
Right.
But it's also enabling us to then start exploring how we can use data to then look at the picture beyond and really just get a sense of what tenants are using from an amenity standpoint. If we're promoting, we put out a health and wellness mobile application. And so starting to see what the trends are around how our tenants are leveraging that and where geographically people are most interested. And that's something that, it's one of those measures that we would have taken regardless of the pandemic, but is now also then helping us understand the bigger picture.
Right. Now, I know this may be a little bit out of the data discussion, but, with real estate, whether it's residential, multifamily, office buildings, we're certainly seeing the use of the Internet of Things to, either automate, certainly now contactless, and then it does create, data off of those, off of that information. Are you seeing any of that used at Brandywine or within the market itself?
Yeah. So some of the more direct data that I've worked with is on the turnstile side, as well as the access and the frequency of access. So
Right.
That's certainly been something we've been trying to look at portfolio-wide in a sense of, okay, can we see, if we have all of these buildings in Center City, Philadelphia, and we know there are 100 companies within the one of them, like how many companies have had anybody swipe in? And of those companies, who's got multiple people swiping in? And we compare that with how much square footage they have to also get a bit of an assessment of how many square feet, like how many people are they really bringing back in the office? Is it packed? Is it lean? If it's a small office and they've only got 2 people coming in, that seems about right. If it's a massive office and they've only got 2 people coming in, what can we do to make more people feel comfortable? So even signals like that with just those kinds of swipes and knowing that people are being sensed in the building.
Or besides turnstile, are you seeing anything that's being used in, IoT that relates to contactless that's allowing, you to bring back people where they do feel safer or more comfortable?
So I'm seeing things in the market that some of them we have or have not taken or started implementing, but there are certain companies that are really focusing on the sensors, like heat sensors, which from afar can be a far cruder sense of a temperature check, but even using that information as a proxy for the turnstile data to understand how many people are even in a specific room.
Right.
And that's something. There are software companies that are coming out with even systems where you can almost, I'm not personally a fan of this, but you can almost from a property management standpoint say yes or no to people saying they want to come back. Like if you're setting a specific capacity for the building and people are saying, yes, I'm going to come in this day. First of all, they have to register to even come in that day. And then the software can allow people in the back end to say yes or no, you're permitted or you're not. I think that's, some of those are a little bit farther reaching. Whereas I think in our case as a company, we're not just using data, but we're also really leveraging that kind of personal touch of the people at the front desk also having a strong sense of what's going on and where we are in that balance.
Right. Well, we're actually coming to the end of our 15 minutes. It really does. I told you it goes by fast. Is there any, it'll be great to check back in with you. Like I never really thought about the use of turnstile information to help make further decisions. So understanding more how data is used for decision making, I think is, it's a big piece that will enable businesses, regardless of what industry they're in, to make, better decisions and not just guess. From the Chariot side, we're looking at it from building that data pipeline. From your side, you're looking at it from how are you using that data. So they actually have to work together. So having that understanding of both sides, I think is super. So Stacey, thank you so much. And I know that we'll be talking again soon.
That sounds great. Thank you for having me.